Yes, this is DJ Ski.
I'm Jeff Wilson.
Hey guys, Andy Broom, Vice President CGC Cards.
Hey, this is Jason Howard with Panini.
Yo, I'm Q Harrison.
Hey gang, this is Tom Verrilli. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Whatnot.
This is Teapot from Sports Card Investor.
This is Adam Rips with V-Friends.
What's up? This is Aaron from Slab Stock.
Hey, this is Clark from 5 Card Guys and the Cards to the Moon podcast.
Hey guys, this is Jay with Wild Card.
What's up everyone? This is Duke Dodson from Graybos.
What's up everybody? This is Chris Kelsey from Nash Cards.
What's up everyone? This is Mark Hill from My Card Post.
This is Ray Schulte.
This is Chase Krim.
This is Cody from Texas Roadshow Shop.
This is Mark Aaron from WSB Radio in Atlanta, and you're listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show.
I'm loving the content.
Loving the content here.
I'm loving the content here on the Sports Card Strategy Show.
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 And I'm telling you, the Sports Card Strategy Show.
This is the Sports Card Strategy Show with your man, Paul Hickey. What's good?
Be sure to subscribe for year-round advice on keeping your portfolio up to date.
Part of the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network, the #1 place for advice on how to make money flipping sports cards. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, there is no off-season.
There is no off-season.
There is no off-season.
And there's no off-season.
You already know, there is no off-season.
No off-season!
All right, you ready to rock?
Ready to go.
When you get into this game, the reason why you pay someone like Paul Hickey to get your sports card strategy together is because sometimes when you're starting out, you need perspective, you need wisdom, you need insights. And so he's been around the track enough times where he can actually coach you up and guide you. Doesn't mean he's going to take you to the promised land tomorrow, but you now have a coach by your side that can advise and kind of even create these pathways where you can get the education yourself. And that's a lot better than thugging it out on your own. Thugging it out on your own.
What? The kids better buy my rookie card now. Cause after this year, the price ain't coming down.
Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Paul Hickey. It's time to sit back, listen, learn, and earn with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Lefty McKee in the house.
What an intro, bro.
Missing a couple of weeks. I could tell. See, everybody, Lefty does not listen to the show. So this is the first time that he's heard the intro. Is that correct?
That's the first time I've heard the new one, yeah.
Yeah, first time you've heard the new one. Just did the new intro a couple of weeks ago, Lefty. You've been out. So good to have you back. I was excited to see your reaction to the new intro because I knew it was probably the first time that you had heard it.
Yeah, it was funny. I like the Chad Dyer saying we need Jim Rome in that. That's so funny. I mean, there were some Jim Rome-esque personalities in there, so that was good. Who was rapping?
That's Mos Def.
All right.
MOS space DEF.
Shout out to Mos Def.
Classic hip hop. Classic hip hop. And I've been listening
to hip hop, you know.
I've been listening to that song. It's from a song called Oh No, and it's Mos Def, Pharaoh Monch, and Nate Dogg. Do you know who any of those three guys are?
No. What, you knew the answer to that.
You don't know who Nate Dogg is?
No.
It ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. It ain't no fun. You don't know? Do you know the song Regulate?
I don't think so.
Wow. Okay.
Come on. I know this guy's name.
Okay. All right, everybody. Drop a comment at youtube.com/Paul Hickey if you know the song Regulate by Warren G and Nate Dogg. Look at that. All right, Lefty. For those of you listening on Apple and Spotify that can't see Lefty. Actually, let me stop saying that. Basically, if you're listening on Apple, you're the only people that can't see us because you can see us. These are video podcasts on Spotify, by the way. So
that's sick.
You can see Lefty's sticker, Sports Card Strategy Show sticker on his. Was that a Stanley? Did you just
Manly
stickerize a Stanley? Lefty has a Manly Stanley that he just stickerized with. It's a pretty badass sticker, if I do say so myself.
No, it matches my Manly. So
yeah, it looks good. Looks good. Most NoOffSeason.com premium members have gotten those stickers. If you haven't, hit me up. I'll work on getting
you
you
have
a
to be
sticker.
the top of the funnel though to get the Manly stickered edition Sports Card Strategy Show Manly Stanley.
Manly Stanley, stickerize your Manly Stanley with a Sports Card Strategy Show sticker, but become a premium member first. Cyrus says he's 22 and he knows Nate Dogg. That makes me feel good. My son's 15 and he knows Nate Dogg. So Lefty just does not like hip hop. That's fine. Chris Law obviously knows Pharaoh Monch. I love it. Chris Law. And Richard Villarreal, my guy, says that yes, Nate Dogg sings the hook on "Till I Collapse" with Eminem. That's a great call. That's a great call. Do you know Eminem, Lefty?
Yeah, Detroit's finest, bro.
That's right. That's
A couple
right.
weeks ago, I actually said that he was number 2 on Detroit's finest behind the Sports Card Strategy Show, Paul Hickey, the Dave Ramsey of sports cards.
Let's go, Lefty.
Number 1 Detroit personality.
So you've never heard this? Have you heard the beat like? Dun, 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 dun,
yes.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yes.
dun, 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 dun. That's Regulate.
Cool.
Cool. Okay. So what are we doing on today's Sports Card Strategy Show, Lefty? We are doing one thing and one thing only that everyone's pumped for. I mean, I've been getting DMs, I've been getting emails. Hopefully you've been prepping, and we're going to set the stage for those of you who are new to the show. Hopefully if this is the first time that you've listened to the Sports Card Strategy Show, hopefully you haven't left yet. Hopefully you're like, these guys are having fun. They're talking to their people in the live chat. What's up, everyone on IG? I see you. I'll shout you guys out later.
Lefty dances like he knows hip hop, but he absolutely doesn't.
Lefty's a good looking guy. He's a great looking dancer. We like these guys, but we're here to help you make money flipping sports cards. And one thing that I've decided to do is learn from my 2024 year, and going into 2025, I've basically narrowed it down. I've taken like this shortcut without really explaining totally why I'm doing this. I feel like I've said a few things in previous episodes leading up to this as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, but hopefully we'll have a little bit more under the hood in this episode after we reveal what I'm doing. So what I am doing, for those of you, is I am picking only 5 players to invest in, 5 athletes to invest in starting now.
Interested in this.
It's an arbitrary day. It's Wednesday, November 13th, but basically here's kind of what I've explained so far. And then Lefty, maybe you can ask me some questions. You can kind of grill me a little bit, like, why I'm doing this and all that stuff. And we'll unpack it before we reveal the 5. And we want Lefty to guess the 5. We might play a little, hey, is it this person or is it that person with Lefty? I'm going to bring in all of your predictions. Those of you that have DM'd me at Sports Card Strategy, those of you that have emailed me at paul@nooffseason.com. There's people in the live chat right now that are putting in their guesses for me. But basically, Kendall, I want to only pick 5 players for a few reasons. I want to become the subject matter expert at 5 different players' cards. I don't feel like I can be... Do I feel like I can be the subject matter expert at helping you make money flipping sports cards? Absolutely. I've felt that way for the last few years, and that's why we've built what we've built at nooffseason.com and the Sports Card Strategy Show. Do I feel like I've optimized my own personal investing strategy? No. But do I feel like I've picked up insights in order to do that? Absolutely. And the reason why I don't think I've optimized my own personal investment strategy to a certain extent is because I haven't separated the content from the investing. So what I'm looking to do in 2025 is I'm looking to separate creating content with actually making decisions for my own bankroll. And I think I figured out a way to do that. I think I figured out a way to do those 3 things. I can't become the subject matter expert in every single investment strategy out there for sports cards. I can become the subject matter expert in sports cards for 5 athletes. And while doing that, I think I can optimize the amount of money that I can potentially make, separate my own bankroll from the content that I'm creating, but still, because I'm only going to be able to invest in 5 players, and I'm going to be tempted to invest in way more than 5 players, and I'm always on a mission to bring all of you the best possible sports card investment strategies. I think what I can do is infuse the content with the plays that I can't make, but that you all can, right? So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Lefty, what's your take on this? I mean, what I know I told you I was going to do this a few weeks ago. I told you kind of coming off my 2024 learning that I feel like I spread myself too thin. I made too many plays. A lot of the money that I lost were from plays that I wanted to experiment on. And to a certain extent, maybe I'm done experimenting. Maybe I just need to narrow my focus. What do you think?
Well, I think I just want to push back on done experimenting because this is another experiment.
Oh, that's a good point.
Even though you're choosing 5 solidified assets that you know, or that you think you know, or you think you will know well, it still is an experiment. I mean, even though you're taking from your mind 5 extremely solidified assets, you still are putting a lot of stock in 5 players when there's thousands and thousands out there that are in the investability range of where we're at. If you go over the entire year of a sports card strategy show from all of our content, I'm sure we're in the at least multiple hundreds on athletes that we spotlight at some point, and so when we're settling down to 5, I think it's going to be not only an opportunity for you to exercise patience, which is going to be fun for me to watch as maybe it's in July and you're absolutely squirming on, trying to figure out this new athlete that's just come onto the scene that's not in your top 5, and how we're, how maybe your 2026 will include a different set of players, or however you attack that in the future. I'm excited about it. I've narrowed my list of potentials that I think that you could get to 10. But I'm not sure if you curbed some sports or anything like that. And so I have a list of 10 that starts with Aaron Rodgers, by the way. So,
yes.
Just kidding. I knew that was not going to be on the list. But I have a list of guys, and spoiler alert, girls too, that are on the list here that I think would be good investments. And I have 10 people that I'm trying to enter the mind of Paul Hickey and look at what you've been doing over the last couple of months, knowing which players you've kind of been passionate about as we are texting and things like this, players that we, have chopped it up with on maybe some of our shows. And I've kind of narrowed it down. And I haven't even looked at our show notes because I was too afraid that you were going to put it in there. And so
good on you. Good on you. I almost did put it in there. In fact, when I was prepping earlier today, I had to go delete some stuff just in case you did look at it, so that I wasn't giving you a dead giveaway there, because that's no fun.
Yeah. I love Cyrus saying plus 2,500 on a pickleball player. That's pretty hilarious. I can guarantee you that Paul doesn't even know a pickleball player. And
that's true. I do not.
I know one. So there we go.
Yeah, that's impressive that you even know one. So
I just know he was a tennis player that transferred to pickleball. So,
and I know Cyrus is half kidding, but it's actually interesting because pickleball to me would have to be more of a bet on the future. It would have to be more of hey, it doesn't have the market, but I think that it might have the market, and so I'm going to invest, and then maybe once the market gets big enough, since I got in early, maybe there'll be some money there. And the reason I bring that up is because, you could say the same thing about, golf, tennis, F1, soccer. And really you can make money in those sports, even pickleball, but I think you have to be in it for the long term, and you have to have a hypothesis. Same thing with we talked about we have fictional athlete cards that we've talked about. We also, I know you and Turner had a Spider-Man Batman debate on Lefty cards. And so when you get into fictional characters, and things like that, or even TCG. That's part of the reason why we don't talk about many of those areas of the hobby very often, because I'm an in and out guy. Like, I want to get in and get out. And I think you and I have both become more like that since we've been heavily flipping sports cards, because we've just found that when you can move fast, you can really make a lot of money while the market is fluctuating. Like, you can get in and out and kind of reverse engineer things and not have to wait and make money. So I will say pickleball was not a thought for me, but also, and I know we're kind of kidding about pickleball, but neither really were any of the sports that you have to wait on. So I think that probably should surprise no one. And I'm excited to kind of get into your guesses here. Do you want, Lefty, how do you want to do this? Do you want me to give you some of the audience guesses first? Do you want to ask me some more questions to try to get some information out of me before we reveal the top 5? And then I think when we're revealing the 5, I want to obviously have a discussion around breaking down why I chose each of the 5 over others that I considered, and really unpack the actual strategy behind what it's going to allow me to do in 2025.
Yeah, I guess the ball's in your court on that, because I do have guesses that I've narrowed it down to 10, but out of these 10, I think I know your 5, or I think I would know at least the range of your 5. And if they're not the actual 5 you've chosen, I would imagine that it's on your short list, at least of when you narrowed it to 5, that I would imagine that I'm not far off on some of these, or most of these, but I'm curious to know how well you think the audience knew what you were doing.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Well, that's a good place to start after I say, are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. Okay, I'm going to give you the audience picks here in a second, and I think that those that submitted picks did a really good job doing their version of what you said you were doing. Is, they clearly listen to the show. They pick up on things that I say. I have dropped a few hints over the last few episodes. I've done some little teasers. And so the guesses that came in were very, very strategic, organized, well thought out guesses. And I thank everyone who participated in that, whether you emailed me at paul@nooffseason.com, whether you DM'd me on Instagram at sportscardstrategy. I really appreciate that. So we can get into some of these guesses here. And Derek Hagan, a premium member of nooffseason.com, his 5 guesses were Jaden Daniels, Victor Wembanyama, Arch Manning, and number 4, he put Michael Jordan or LeBron James, and then number 5, Shedeur Sanders. Hawaii Kai Sports Cards on IG said Caitlin Clark, Michael Jordan, Shohei Ohtani, Shedeur Sanders, and Jaden Daniels. So far we've got 2 for Shedeur, 2 for Jaden, and 1 for everybody else mentioned. 2 for Jordan. And then Pro Sports Cards LLC on IG said, love the content. Glad we became premium members. Got to throw that in there. Caitlin Clark, Shohei Ohtani, Victor Wembanyama or Anthony Edwards, Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes. And then let's see. So just so far in the live chat, Lynn, course correction card, says Shohei, Caitlin, Shedeur, Wemby, and Aaron Rodgers, which we appreciate the Aaron Rodgers joke. People who are in on the Aaron Rodgers joke. Joel Kaplan said Cooper Flag. Chris Law, a loyal premium member of nooffseason.com. We love Chris Law. He says Caitlin Clark, LeBron, Ohtani, and Jaden Daniels. And we've got Chris R is mentioning Arch Manning in the live chat. He's mentioning Arch Manning in a different regard, and maybe we'll get to his question later on in the show. Cloud City Card says still making money on Wemby Prisms and Stroud selects PSA 10. So that's cool. So just more names that we talk about on the show. So yeah, I mean, Joel Kaplan coming in, Caitlin, Ohtani, Wemby, Cooper Flag, Shador. Chris Law saying no on Shador. Yeah. So Lefty, these are pretty close. I'm not gonna say anything before you give your guesses, but I mean, when we break this down, we got a lot of votes for Shador, a lot of votes for Wemby, some for Caitlin Clark, a lot for Ohtani, a lot for Jaden Daniels, a couple for Patrick Mahomes. A couple other hints I threw out on the show, on some shows recently leading up to this, is hard to not pick an NFL quarterback. Struggled with that part of the decision. Wanted to spread it out between multiple sports. And you know how I feel about liquidity, right? Getting in and out. A couple other things I said, I want to focus on some players with no more rookie print run, or at least some that are almost done, but a few more cards might come out for them. So let's go into, out of all these names, Lefty, give me one name that you are like 100%. Like if you had to put money down on a player for 2025, and I've mentioned that, and this is an exciting day for me because basically everything I've bought before today does not count. It does not count. Anything I buy after this show is done counts. I can only buy 5 athletes. And actually, there's one more thing before I forget. Remember, when we talked about this the last time we talked a couple of weeks ago on this show, I believe you brought up like, hey, Paul, what if you were able to give yourself like some type of hall pass?
Yeah.
So I actually did come up with something that I'm comfortable doing. I don't want to give myself, there were some really good ideas that came in. I think your idea and some other people's ideas were kind of mixed together, basically came out as like, give yourself some sort of a budget throughout the year or maybe month by month so that you don't miss opportunities. And so I thought about that, and I am giving myself something, and I'll explain what that is after I reveal my 5. But it's pretty rigid, as well as only limiting myself to 5 players. Because what I don't want to do is I actually don't want to open up the world to look at. I really, really want to keep it to as few athletes as possible because I want to become so knowledgeable in those athletes' cards that I'm like destined to increase my profit margin from around 15% in 2024 up to like hopefully 40, 50, 60% in 2025 because I'm so smart about my purchases. So let's do this. Give me one player that you're super confident in who's in my 5.
I think you have to start with Wemby here. I think like if Paul Hickey was not circulating Wembanyama cards over the next year, then it just the world wouldn't be right. So I think that's where I'm at with the first one. But I think it might be fun for me to think of like, let's just start there. Let's start there. Wembanyama.
Ding, 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 ding,
the easiest fruit, bro.
Let's end the suspense. Lefty nailed it. And this is a good one because his rookie print run is basically done. And when you look at the data, look, like you guys all know I'm extremely data driven. When you look at the data, his stuff is down. And we know the reason why it's down. It's down because all of his cards really are finally out now. There's going to be some maybe national treasures and flawless and high-end things from Panini, but he's not going to have any autos in those releases because he's Fanatics exclusive. We're basically we're past Prism, we're past Optic, We're past this Topps Chrome thing. We're past his high-end Mercury thing from Topps. And so now you're in a situation where Wembanyama's market is as flat as it's ever going to be, which is the perfect time to buy in. And we are at the point that I typically talk about, which is like, or let's say, let me rephrase this. In the next 14 months, which is basically how I'm giving myself 14 months to buy these 5 players. And within that next 14 months is going to be that sweet spot that I always talk about. Those of you that have taken sports card school, those of you that have listened to multiple episodes of the Sports Card Strategy Show, I always talk about wait until 3 to 6 months after a player's last rookie card hits the market. That's the sweet spot to buy into their rookie cards. And the data is already showing me that. I mean, Victor Wembanyama's 2023 Prism Base Raw, which is not an exciting card, but it's a card that you can, from a raw to grade standpoint, per the formula, make a lot of money on if you buy the right copies that look like they're going to gem. And I've become much better at that, even buying online. It's less than a $17 card. It's down 86% over the last 365 days. Now, a lot of that data, like 365-day data can be skewed, but it's down 46% over the last 90 days. It's down 38% over the last 60 days. And he's still Victor Wembanyama. So the other thing, Lefty, I'll say, and I don't know if this is a clue or not to the rest of the 5. We got 4 players left. Lefty's 1 for 1. Is people have emailed me. This is the other side of this. People have emailed me their concerns with me doing this, which has been fun. I appreciate that. People have been emailing me their concerns. They care about me, and I care about all of them as well. I care about all of you. They're concerned that I'm going to miss out on opportunities. They're concerned about injuries. They're concerned about a lot of things. If Victor Wembanyama gets injured, or if any of the 5 players get injured, you want to put yourself in a position where you've picked names that aren't going to see their market totally tank based on an injury. And, oh, by the way, Lefty, injuries historically have been good buy-in points for a lot of players, especially guys like Victor Wembanyama. So according to tradingcarddatabase.com, we don't shout them out very often. I don't use them as much as I should. TCDB.com. According to them, Victor Wembanyama has 2,674 total cards out right now.
Wow.
It's really hard to actually put that number in perspective, but you want to pick guys that actually have options as well. So, to me, there's a million different Wemby plays that can be made. Most of them probably raw to grade, although there's also the silver. So I did the basketball card market update today. And his Prism Silver PSA 10 is down to $750.
Wow.
We've talked about, we all feel like that's probably a $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 card pretty easily. As long as the Spurs are relevant and Wemby has a good season. The other thing I'll say about Wemby before maybe go to the next one is Wemby doesn't have to do a lot on the court for his cards to skyrocket.
Yeah.
He won Rookie of the Year. He had a great rookie season, but the Spurs sucked, right? He's a big man who plays like a guard, so his minutes have been limited. And when the Spurs started to give him some more minutes towards the end of his rookie year, you started to see some pretty phenomenal things in the stat column. The Spurs have Chris Paul, they have Stephon Castle, they have a pretty decent surrounding cast around him. Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, I think, is coming off the bench. So they've got some exciting young players around him and some proven veterans around him. Greg Popovich's health, maybe that's a factor in how the Spurs actually compete this season. But I just don't think Wemby has to do a whole lot. I mean, he's already Wemby. So as soon as he has like a 5 or 6 game record breaking stretch, or he has that quadruple double that I've been predicting since before he started in the NBA, I really just think that he's not only I don't want to call him a safe play because there's really no safe play, but I think he's pretty close to as safe as you're going to get, maybe being injury proof, being performance proof. He has dominated the sales volume over the last 18 months of basketball cards. And we're finally actually getting to the point where you can make money on his cards that have been pack pulled. We've made a lot of money on his cards that have been print on demand or ripped out of SI Kids magazines. Now we're getting to the point where you can make money on his pack pulled cards.
Yeah, I have one. I just sent one of my cards of his to auction yesterday, actually, because I realizing it's down. I'm up almost 2x on the card, and so I'm just like, hey, let's get out of this before the December breakup where everything is gone, and then let's buy back in at a certain point. I do like Wemby's long-term value. I think on lefty cards, and maybe this is the hint that you thought you were going for. There was another guy who's been injured right now, and his market has not gone down at all. And so maybe that's another player that's on this list. But I think Wemby could be quote unquote recession proof. As when he comes out of his bubble, I think, obviously with his buying being inflated because of all the print runs that are out there and all this kind of stuff, we saw an oversurge, and then there will be like a comeback to value. But I think his value will settle and plateau for a while, and I think he'll be a safe investment in the long run. So
for those of you just tuning in, Victor Wembanyama is number one. Lefty called it. I gave him one guess to start that he was most sure on, and he nailed it.
Would you say that was your number one?
I would say that probably is my number one.
Is that your safest of the 5? Like that you're like, this guy is for sure on there. Like before you did all your research and everything.
Yes. There was no amount of research that could knock Victor Wembanyama off my list. He was definitely number one.
That's
so a great call by you. I think it would be foolish to pick 5 athletes to invest in for 14 months and not pick Victor Wembanyama for all of the reasons that we've already discussed. So thanks to everybody. If you're just like tuning in, we're doing my 5 in 2025, which starts now to me, or starts right after this episode to me. It's a 14-month year for me in terms of my basketball or my sports card strategy. My basketball, baseball, football, soccer, golf, tennis, everything strategy. We got some new predictions coming in. We've got Roki Sasaki. Alonzo Franco says, what about Roki as a late add to the list? Frank Cosman, loyal premium member at nooffseason.com, says CJ Stroud. And then another vote for Patrick Mahomes, Catawba Valley Sports Cards. So thanks everybody for chiming in. Chris Law actually has a good qualifying question here. Are these 5 athletes based on raw to grade plays, or graded and selling marker based? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked, because sometimes I don't explain everything right away.
Probably
that I should. It's got to be everything. Everything. I can't limit myself to 5. I've decided to narrow my focus to 5 athletes because I want a narrow focus. There would have been 1,000 other ways to narrow my focus. You can pick eras of sports cards. You can pick only a sport. You can pick only a set. There's tons of different things that you can do to narrow your focus in the hobby. And I wanted to keep open all of the different types of plays that I could make. I just think that the easiest way to narrow my focus was to only pick 5 players. Is 5 an arbitrary number? Yes. Could it have been 3? Could it have been 10? Sure. But I just thought 5 was the right number because I think 3 is too little. I think 10's too much. I think 7's weird, whatever. So 5 in 2025, not 05, 5 in 2025 felt the best for me. We've got more names coming in. Jordan Love, Paolo Banchero, Paige Becker's coming in from our guy Ryan Painter. Lefty's probably seen the show notes now. There's like this list of candidates in the show notes.
I haven't seen anything. I have been purposely avoiding it.
Okay, all of those names that Ryan Painter just named, we hadn't talked about yet. Like, he's the first one to mention those names on today's show, and they're all in the list of potential 5. So did it just make it harder on you that he did that? Or where are you at next, Lefty? Do you want me to give you an either or do you want what kind of clue?
I want you to answer a couple of my questions first.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that you did not pick anyone out of the 3 main sports.
I would say that is correct. So these are all baseball, basketball, football. There are no tennis, no golf, no soccer, no F1, no hockey. What else am I missing? Pickleball.
Well, my main assumption was that you were picking some basketball players, some baseball players, and at least one football player. So I would, so when I made this list, I was like, okay, Paul's going to lean heavy basketball because that's who he is. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe he's not. And I was like, he's not going to have any baseball players because he just doesn't talk about it. And then I was like, well, okay, maybe there are some guys that he's interested in the long term. So this is what I have. I have that you have 3 basketball players, 1 baseball player, and 1 football player.
Okay.
Is that correct?
That actually is correct.
Come on!
That actually is correct. That's correct. Yeah. You got it. 3 basketball, 1 baseball, 1 football.
That makes it hard. That makes it hard because there are 2 football players that I was between which one you were going to go with. And something that you've said on this episode makes it seem like you're not going with either of them. And so
what was the thing that I said?
That they are not their print runs are done.
Okay. So who were those guys? Were they, I'm guessing one of them was picked by several audience members.
I narrowed it down to, so I have my 5, but there was in the football realm, I didn't know whether you were going to pick Shedeur or whether you were going to pick Arch. I was like, is this Shedeur Money Sanders or is this Arch Madness? Like, which one are we doing? Because you can put them in both realms. And I'm going to make a pick on one of them because I think his market is actually going to be more stable than the other over the next 12 months because there will actually be less cards of this guy printed than the other.
All right. So this is great. So you're going to pick one, either Shedeur or Arch, because in a world where pro football dominates, you're going to pick Shedeur or Arch as my 1 football player.
I am picking Arch Manning because Shedeur is going to have too many cards coming out over the next calendar year.
Are you ready for it?
I am ready.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yes! Come on! That was like one of the ones I was the most unsure about, actually.
This was my hardest decision out of the 5 because you got to have at least 1 football player. You're an idiot if you don't have at least one football. I mean, honestly, if I only invested in football and I picked 5 football players, I would probably do pretty well because football, you can really time the market. Yeah. You really know who the market loves, who the market's lukewarm on, who the flyers are. I think everybody likes their flyer football picks, and that's cool. But if you narrowed it down to 5 guys, and you really just wanted to make money flipping sports cards, and you were willing to narrow your focus to 5 football players, you could really crush the game. You really could. And so for me we've already established, for those of you who didn't catch what Lefty just did there, we just established in the last 5 minutes that I'm not buying a pro football player. Like Lefty said, 1 football player. He's correct. And then he said it's between Shedeur and Arch Manning. And it's Arch Manning. And the reason why it's Arch Manning is because there's a few reasons. We'll get into like why it's Arch over Shedeur. Unpack that. Then we'll get into like, why am I not buying any pro football players, which is kind of weird. I thought about that for like several weeks. Lefty basically nailed it. Like there's going to be so many Shedeur cards coming out. His market is going to change so much over the next 14 months. And he's so polarizing of a figure in and out of the hobby. You either love Shedeur, and we know that I'm on record that I love Shedeur, or you really, really, really want to fade Shedeur. I'm not going to use the H word, but like you basically don't like Shedeur. You either love him or you really don't like him. And so I think for that reason, for those 2 reasons, it's going to be a tough Shedeur market. But here's a hint for later in the show. There's an asterisk around Shedeur. There's an asterisk. So we'll come back to that.
There was going to be something there.
There's going to be a specific asterisk on Shedeur Sanders.
Fair.
But it is Arch Manning. And the reason why is because Arch, according to Trading Card Database, has 147 total cards out, which is a lot for someone who really technically hasn't even been the starter in his own college team yet. So because
which is fine. That means there's sell markers ahead of him.
That's right. So this is a different play than Wemby. Even though I talked about Wemby, I believe has sell markers. I believe he barely has to do anything spectacular on the court for his cards to skyrocket. So I think Wemby, there's tons of raw to grade plays for every athlete, but there's tons of them for Wemby. There's tons of selling marker plays for Wemby. Arch, it's the same thing. It's the same thing as Wemby. It's like he's had cards out since early 2023 when the Prism throwback cards, print on demand cards that you and I bought have been out.
Sick card, by the way.
And he has a plethora of autograph cards. And
which
not only does he have those cards, but they've been out for over a year. So they have an established market. There's data on raw to grade. There's data on when you can buy low. And we know Texas is a top 5 team. It probably doesn't matter what happens the rest of this college football season. Going into next year, Texas is probably a top 5 college team in the polls.
If he doesn't transfer, I would say probably number 1.
Say that again.
If he doesn't transfer, I would say Texas is probably preseason number 1.
And I don't think there's any way he's going to transfer, because at this point, Ewers is going to be gone. So at that point, why would you right? Like, I mean, who knows if he doesn't like Sarkisian or something happens there. Like, we don't know. Maybe he transfers, but to transfer out of a starting gig at Texas when you've been there for 2 years already, basically being groomed to be the guy. And he's flashed on the field when he's been on the field. At times he's looked like a freshman, right? But at times he's looked like, okay, this kid can play. And oh, by the way, like his name literally is Archie Manning. He just goes by Arch. And he's Cooper's son. He's Peyton and Eli's nephew, for those of you who don't know. He was the number 1 overall high school football player coming out of his class. Enough said, right? I mean, Lefty, you and I have been doing this show with each other going on 4 years now. Like when we were doing this show back in 2022, before Arch had any cards out, we talked about him. We were like, when this dude is in the hobby, it's going to be insane. So Arch Madness, I'm going to be a part of Arch Madness.
Come on. All right, so I'm 2 for 2.
You're 2 for 2.
That's exciting.
You're 2 for 2, and we've established that there's no more football players in the remaining 3 players.
Yep.
But I did put an asterisk on Shedeur Sanders. Probably wondering what that is. So, but let's go on to the next. Any more questions for me as we reveal the next 3?
No. So I think I'm going to do the next low-hanging fruit by the one baseball player. I think it's fairly clear what you're going to do here. It would be very surprising for me if you don't go with somebody. And I think Alonso was barking up a close tree, but not the right tree. Roki Sasaki will be a guy that I will sell this offseason, but the third guy that you have picked on your list is a pitching and hitting phenomenon from Los Angeles Dodgers, who's just won his first championship, Shohei mother-lovin' Ohtani.
Ding, 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 ding,
Come
ding, ding,
on.
ding, ding. Lefty nails it again. And I mean, look, for those of you who are like, well, Lefty and Paul colluded on this, or Paul's too Captain Obvious, these are two whatever, that's fine. This is all about making money, right? I mean, this is about, like, this is me checking myself and going, I'm a content creator. We help people make money flipping sports cards through all this great content. But at the same time, I'm also a sports card flipper, and I need to be smart because I do this for a living as a revenue stream. Like, I need to make money. And when you look at Shohei Ohtani, you just look at nothing but up and to the right. He's just always been up and to the right. And he's going to be expensive to buy into. It's going to force me. I think out of the 3 players we've talked about so far, Shohei is going to force me to do the most research. You think it's obvious that I'm buying Shohei Ohtani, but he might be the hardest one out of the 5 to actually profit on.
Yeah.
Because he's so expensive. So, like, it
would have been a similar conversation to Mahomes as well. Like, Mahomes has a market, but he's got to do a lot to raise it and not very much to lower it. You know, so you've got that same thing with Ohtani. Ohtani has reached the proverbial top of peak of his career, winning a championship with the Los Angeles Dodgers. How is he going to raise his value over the next 12 months? And there will be plays that are able to be made, but he's got a lot of cards out there. And so it will be fun for me to watch you do baseball. Like, I don't think for you to be able to dig through some of this stuff and kind of probably bring some nuggets out for me to be able to use in my strategy for other players. I'm very excited about this one.
Me too. I really need to dig into baseball. No better player to do it with than Shohei. It's going to be hard. I mean, I thought about Bobby Witt Jr. as my baseball player. I would say Bobby Witt Jr. was my other guy that I considered as my baseball player.
Yeah, he's in my 10. He's on my little whiteboard here of like guys that could have been marginally in there.
Yep. And I see Bobby Witt Jr. being maybe a guy that I'm like, out of all of the athletes that I think I've weeded out, maybe I'm missing someone. Well, there's probably 2. There's another one that'll be like probably painfully obvious when we as we get to the final 2 players on this list. But I think Bobby Witt Jr. is in a short list of players that I'm probably going to be following and like making plays for people at nooffseason.com that I can't make myself. We're going to be talking a lot about him. And I think Shohei might be harder to make money on in 2025 than Bobby Witt Jr., but with one major exception. And this goes back to what you and I have spent really almost literally the last year. We've said this consistently. We said when he underwent his second Tommy John surgery, we said, okay, well, if you just fade Shohei in 2024 and then buy him at the end of 2024, he's pitching again in 2025, which is a selling marker.
Yeah.
So, you know, he did some historic things in 2024 at the plate. Shohei narrowed his focus, right? Like, if you look at the microcosm here in the discussion, Shohei is a microcosm of what I'm doing. Like, Shohei narrowed his focus from pitching to hitting. And then he's like, what else can I do at the plate? Well, maybe it's bomb 50 plus homers. And oh, by the way, what else can I do on offense? Steal bases. So Shohei became a different kind of dual threat in 2024. He won a World Series. Now he's in a situation where he's solidified. He is solidified as a GOAT, as an active GOAT for as long as he plays, regardless of what happens to this dude. He's an active GOAT. So if he gets injured or has a bad 2025 season for whatever reason, I'm buying him because that's a good time to buy in, right? If he comes back and is like Cy Young and Triple Crown candidate and maybe wins both, it wins everything basically, and maybe wins another World Series, well, it's up and to the right even more. So I think it's going to be hard to make money on Shohei, but I think there's going to be a ton of ways to make money on Shohei. And I'm okay with the fact that I've really picked at least one player on this list. If he doesn't pay off for like 8 or 9 months, I kind of want them to be named Shohei Ohtani because he's going to pay off at some point.
Yeah, I like that. I think he's going to be a guy that you're either going to be able to flip trade or buy the dip on. You can play this narrative out so many different ways, like he's reached the peak, all this, okay, great. But then, with Yamamoto coming back healthy, there could potentially be, with the Dodgers also being in a race to sign Roki, there could legit be a 3-headed Japanese pitching front on this 5 that could be marketed out of this world. So if you had Yamamoto, Roki, and Shohei top 3, and in the playoffs, you're really running those 3 down, like that's exciting. That could be something that the world has never seen before, which will drive more hype and will, inevitably I'll be riding the coattails of one of those other 2 players, so it's going to work out for me as well. But I think there's just so many narratives that this could play out, and he could have yet another offensively great season and win a Cy Young. That could legit happen. He could be an MVP twice over, and so I like Shohei. I think he's one of the most interesting guys in the hobby. There's a clear reason why his market share of the money that's in sports cards is in his favor, and he's got some extremely cool cards. Like at some point, if you don't bring up the Senga auto, I'm gonna just murder you. So there's got to be some extremely cool cards that he has out there. He's got everything from Bowman to Topps to Triple Threads to Panini. He's got baseball cards, he's got Japanese cards. This guy has like Topps Now cards. He's got this guy is like so many different things you can do, which will be very exciting to do. So I know you have a package.
FedEx is here. I got to go get the package. Keep going with getting people to make their predictions, talking about Shohei. What's next? Two more.
Got it. So I'll just narrow it down to the other 2. We've narrowed it down now that out of the 5 earlier in the episode, I recapped that we've narrowed it down to 3 basketball players, 1 baseball player, and 1 football player. I got him to say, yes, you are correct that your 3-1-1 is in fact how I went forward. My first guess was Wembanyama. That was the easiest thing. Read Paul like a book there. So had him, I'm not even 100% convinced that Wemby is going to be a great investment, but I just knew over the next calendar year, but I just knew that Paul was going to go that way. And so then I went back to the football. That was the most challenging one. And if I was going to get one wrong, I thought it was going to be there. I ended up choosing Arch instead of Shador. That's where we were. And so then the next fruit that I stumbled upon, which was the easiest. I was between Shohei and Bobby Witt Jr. on my whiteboard, and I had circled Shohei, and it was like one of those things that Okay, of course, Bobby Witt Jr. came in second place to Aaron Judge in MVP voting this year, and he came into second place in me choosing a baseball player for you as well. But it was maybe 60-40, maybe even 70-30. Like, I was for sure that you were going to go Shohei here, but now we've got 2 basketball players left. And
yeah, that's crazy, right?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Have both of these players been mentioned already on this episode?
Yes, they have. Both of these players have been mentioned. Yep.
That means I'm wrong on one.
Okay.
And so I will save that one for last. And then I'm also assuming that one of them is a female.
I will give you that. One of them is a female.
All right. So my 4th pick is that you are going to invest in Caitlin Clark over the next 12 months.
Lefty, why do you say Caitlin Clark? Let's do it this way this time. Why do you think Caitlin Clark?
Well, I say Caitlin Clark because it's very rare that in a top 3 sport, the entire market revolves around one player. So with the WNBA, outside of the college cards, you've got Paige Beckers and all, you've got other players coming in. Out of the WNBA, everybody's buying those Prism sets right now to get Caitlin Clark cards. We've got good Caitlin Clark cards coming already. We've had good ones behind us. There will be some in the future, but the WNBA is not going to overprint cards because they know that they just don't have a market share to overprint cards. And it would be a general loss of dollars for them. So I think out of amount of cards that are coming out for Caitlin Clark, and the amount of cards that we've seen previously, the amount of cards we know that are investable already, and she didn't, in fact, have a whole good season last year, and we could see a whole good season this year, plus a new head coach, plus you're probably going to have free agents come and acquire into Indiana. I think you're going to you're not going to see a sophomore slump from Caitlin Clark. You're going to see a sophomore superstar from Caitlin Clark, and I believe she is going to take it to the next level. Plus, she's spending all offseason not playing in another league, so we're seeing her market kind of dull right now, which is really good for us that are invested in her. How close am I?
The entire live chat right now is lighting up with Caitlin Clark. Lefty says Caitlin Clark. Ding, 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 ding. 4 for 4. Lefty's 4 for 4. I didn't see this coming. I thought Lefty would be close, but not 4 for 4 on the first 4. This is very impressive. And I mean, maybe I'm just easy to maybe I'm just predictable. Like I'm just predictable, which is good. I am the Dave Ramsey of sports cards, according to you and Rusty Emigart. Yeah, I mean, Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, they're two. See, to me, Paige, and thank you, Shane Graham. Yeah, I did drop a Caitlin Clark clue. That was pretty intense clue on the show a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. I think it has to be Caitlin Clark. When you're limiting yourself to 5, you have to give yourself someone who's going to have new releases coming out so that you can, as anti-new release FOMO as I am, she would be the one athlete that would maybe, I mean, just looking at the card that we bought, the draft night card. I mean, that PSA 10 still goes for $250 consistently, which is crazy. Her WNBA select base that just came out has sold for half the price in the last week that it did in the couple of weeks immediately following its release. But I mean, you nailed it. Like, she's got more releases coming out. That's exciting. She is the entire basketball card market right now, men or women. She's the basketball card market. Wemby is like 1B to Caitlin Clark 1A. She's going to be in the news cycle constantly with this, I guess call it like controversy over how they're paid in the WNBA versus other leagues she could play in. There's always going to be rumors about her playing in all kinds of different mixed gender leagues, co-ed leagues, call them whatever you want. On top of what does the WNBA let her do? What do they not let her do? Like, how do they keep her in the league? I mean, she's either going to be dominating the WNBA, or it's going to be, how do you keep her in the WNBA? Either way, she's just going to always be in the news and be clearly someone that everybody wants to buy cards for. And the market is stacked with her cards, so that gives me a lot of options, but it's also a pretty clear picture when you go all the way back to her 2023 Bowman Chrome University, all the way through like her branded set with Panini. Now you've got the WNBA cards with Panini coming out. We've seen Select, and we're about to see Prism. We've got the instant stuff. I'm not as high on the instant stuff, although you make a good point that actually that draft night raw to grade is still kind of a play. There's just tons of Caitlin Clark plays, and she's the GOAT. She's the GOAT. So it couldn't be Paige Beckers or Juju Watkins. I'm concerned. I know we've got a lot of knowledgeable people in the family that are into Paige and that are into Juju and stuff like that. I'm going to flag plant. I'm concerned that people are overvaluing Paige and Juju based on Caitlin Clark. I'd rather just go to Caitlin Clark. But I mean, I hope for everyone's sake, we all make a lot of money on all those athletes. But I think that like it's a bit of a stretch for me to say, oh, well, because Caitlin is this, Paige is going to be that, or because the trail has now been blazed that Juju is going to be that as well. So Paige and Juju just feel a little bit too risky for me. I'm going Caitlin. Shouldn't surprise anybody that knows me well. I'm excited about Caitlin Clark. I'm excited about being able to talk. How do I make money flipping her cards in the next 14 months?
Yeah, I think it reminds me of when Ohtani came on the scene as a two-way player. And then everybody, there was a lot of talk about college players that were playing two-way. And was this going to be a new move in the MLB? Were we going to see more two-way players coming? And I remember Brandon McKay, who got drafted out of Louisville, I believe, by the Rays, was a two-way player in college, and he was drafted as a two-way player. And people were marketing him as a two-way player. And he was like, so that was like the Paige Beckers effect of like, well, now we've got Shohei to prove that McKay's going to be worth money. And you probably don't even know who McKay is. And so it's like, because he just sucked, And so it was like, I agree with like, don't let Caitlin Clark trick you into Paige Beckers being better than her. Like, she's not going to be there. Caitlin is still the dog in that arena. Like, that's the dog that's eating right now. And so Paige may be getting more profile, and we may see the March tournament be bigger than it was last year, but maybe not too, because people are showing up to see Caitlin Clark. Maybe now it's going to be like, well, no one's going to show up to see Paige Beckers because she's not as marketable, So I think that's a good point.
I mean, a couple more things too, just to drive the point home. Lefty's made phenomenal points on Caitlin Clark. He's 4 for 4. If you're just joining us, the best sports cards is asking. Lefty's nailed my first 4. It was Victor Wembanyama. It was
the second one was Arch Manning.
Yep, Shohei Ohtani and Caitlin Clark. So we've got one more left, but before we get to that one, Caitlin Clark, a couple things. I mean, I mentioned a minute ago, she's got the amount of cards that I'm looking for, over 1,600 cards total, according to Trading Card Database. You're starting to see some interesting things with her select WNBA cards. I mean, like the Select Silver is an interesting card. The Select Concourse Silver is an interesting card. 109 raw right now. No graded copies have sold yet because it's still too early. But I expect to see that market cool down a bit after Prism comes out. Select, being a big Panini brand that everyone's familiar with, could be the one that I go after, along with maybe even the draft night. I think with Caitlin, I need to wait until Prism comes out. There's going to be a ridiculous amount of hype for WNBA Prism, and then go back in and just pick apart the Caitlin Clark market. on the cards that aren't Prism. So I'm excited about that. The other thing that hit me, I don't consume a lot of content, but I normally listen to hip hop music while I'm running, Lefty. I know that doesn't surprise you, but every once in a while you get into a different mode. So I went back to a podcast that I used to listen to. It's an entrepreneurial type podcast that just talks to different entrepreneurs about how they build their businesses and things like that. And the host of that podcast, this has nothing to do with sports. This is so far outside the sports content creation market that it's ridiculous. And the host of that podcast was talking about Caitlin Clark. And I was like, wow, I'm so hyper-focused on sports that I don't even realize how transcending Caitlin Clark is. She is a household name and then some. And when you have new people coming into the hobby, which I believe the hobby will continue to grow big time over the next 14 months and then some. When you have these new people coming into the hobby, who do you think they're going to buy? Who do you think they're going to want to buy? Paige, Juju, or Caitlin? Right? I mean, like Caitlin Clark, like you said, is the dog. So there you have it. All right. Lefty, I'm not going to lie. This next one might be a little tough. I don't want to I'm not trying to trick you.
Well, I already know I didn't get it right.
Their name has been mentioned.
Yeah.
Who did you have? Since you're going to be 80%, 4 for 5 here.
Well, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to name the 10 that I have been talking about.
Okay.
So now that 4 that are out there, 1 that is left, I don't think that I'm right unless maybe we're misunderstanding each other. But the guys that I narrowed it down to the 10 before I picked to 5, the guys that are not on the list were Joe Burrow. So that was I was like, I don't think he's going to do that. And then earlier in the show, when I ended up circling them all earlier today. And when you said I did not pick an NFL quarterback, I was like, okay, I was right on that. So Joe Burrow was on there. Shador was on there, which now he has an asterisk, which I know you'll explain in a second. Bobby Witt Jr. was the 3rd of the 5 that did not get selected for me. And then I have Messi on here because I was like, I didn't know if you were going to dip your toe into soccer. And if you were, I was going to similar to Caitlin Clark, one of the guys, or similar to Shohei, you were going to do the guy. And so I ended up not picking him. But if you were going to have a soccer player, that one would have been the one that I would have imagined you'd gone to. And then this one, the 4th or the 5th one is the basketball player that I'm afraid you did choose, and I was thinking you weren't going to choose him. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you who I ended up circling. The guy that I thought you were going to do, which I'm assuming now that you're not going to do that, is I really thought you were going to choose Ant-Man. I thought you were going to go back to the well on a card that and a guy that you've been really high on previously, and you were going to go back to a well similar to Wembanyama. I thought you were going to say Ant-Man's cards are all out. They're all out there. He's the dynamic leader on his team. The Timberwolves are on the up and up. They're going to, they're 6-5 right now, and they're actually 9th in the West, which is embarrassing. But I think that Ant is going to eventually lead this team forward. And we've talked a lot about his silver prism being low. And so I was like, okay, I think this is where I'm going to go over Cooper Flagg. And that was my 10th guy. Is I now am thinking that you've probably chosen Cooper Flagg, but I expected you to pick Ant because Cooper will have a lot of hype over the next year and a lot of cards that'll come out.
Great breakdown. This is the most fun I've had on the show in a long time. And I have a lot of fun with Lefty on a week in, week out basis and with all of you. Okay, how do I want to say this? Okay, let's put an asterisk on Cooper Flagg. There's a lot of Cooper Flagg mentioning in the live chat, and Lefty's mentioned him now. So again, right on the money with the Cooper Flagg. Maybe after I reveal this athlete as my 5th one, we can talk about some guesses as to what my specific asterisk will be. Because the asterisk with Cooper Flagg and Shedeur Sanders is a very specific play. It's not.
I know what it is too.
It's not a budget. It's not okay. Lefty knows what it is. Okay, let's hold that for a second. So the number 5 athlete that I will be buying in 2025, basically the 14-month year that starts right after this show is done airing. His name has been mentioned. It was very, very tough to pick him over Ant-Man because Ant-Man was in and out of this list constantly. Like, so you're right that he was definitely in consideration. Let me just say that this guy, the Card Society has guessed Brittany Griner.
That broke me, bro.
I love it. We also had, so we've had some fun guesses like Aaron Rodgers, Brittany Griner, and who did Shane Graham say a while back? Shane Graham said Charlie Hall, the female golfer. That was a good one. So we've had some fun guesses.
Can I have a re-guess?
Yeah, you can have a re-guess.
I think it's Paolo.
It's tough because Paolo was the other one.
God dang it.
And Shane Graham says Giannis. Now we're getting like really this is good. So like
your 5th card has bamboozled me, Paul.
I love Giannis. I love Paolo. I love Ant-Man. I think they're all going to be great players for all of you to make money on.
Did you pick a goat
in 2025? I did something. Yes, I did something that I have never done. Wow. This is something that I have never done before.
Characteristic of you
to go into a retired player who is a GOAT, not active, still alive.
Michael Jordan.
Say it again.
Michael Jordan.
Ding 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 ding. Wow. Michael Jordan, and props to Derek Hagan. Derek Hagan had Michael Jordan or LeBron James, and it was going to be one of those two. And so to get there, I had to weed out Anthony Edwards, Paolo Banchero. Giannis was never really. I'll tell you. Here's where the true candidates for being on this list were actually Patrick Mahomes, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, LeBron, Paolo, Ant-Man, and Paige Beckers. So those were players that I strongly considered that I weeded out to get to the 5, and I ended on Jordan because any Michael Jordan card that I've ever bought or tried to make a play on, I have not lost on that play. And so to elaborate, basically, I've tried a lot of crack and resubmits with Jordan cards. I've tried a lot of raw to grade with Jordan cards. Never have I gone deep into Michael Jordan. I've really just dipped my toe in the water over the last like 4 years. But whenever I've dipped my toe in that water, I've seen how liquid Michael Jordan is. And doing the basketball card market update for like the last, 30 weeks in a row on Wednesdays, there's never a basketball card market update that does not mention Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer 57 as one of the top sold cards from a volume or from a price standpoint, regardless of grade. There's very rarely been one that hasn't mentioned the 1984 Star in a PSA grade. I don't have the budget to get to the Star 84, but the 86 Fleer, depending on the grade, is where my mind's at trying to make some Michael Jordan plays. We know about the 90s inserts. We know about, Michael Jordan, and this should surprise no one, but he has almost 16,000 cards, right? Now that's cards throughout his storied career, not just rookie cards, but
that seems low for me.
His non-rookie cards sell very well. I mean, I've made money on his 1987 Fleer, which isn't even a good action shot of him. His second year card. So Michael Jordan, there it is. It's going to be like, I might have the most fun researching and trying to make money on Michael Jordan cards. Just because like there's not the stress level of, like hyper relevancy changing. Like there's not like the news cycle stress with Jordan, right? There's not going to be anything where I'm like, oh crap, I got to get this Jordan card listed because he just put up a triple double or won a championship or had a big game or whatever. Whereas with Paolo, with Ant-Man, with Wemby, we're really with everyone else that I've picked. There's somewhat of a stress level with, hey, do I have to like, whereas I wanted to give myself one player that had a deep enough market and a strong enough market where I could really, really dig in before I made purchases. Like I could lose 74 auctions before I finally won the 75th one. And so with Jordan's going to be that guy for me in 2025 where I really try and uncover something. And you made the point at the beginning of the show when I was like, I'm done doing all these experiments. You were like, no, this is an experiment. You're not done. You're still experimenting. And that's right. You're absolutely right. So the Michael Jordan in this really, I think to me is the biggest part of this experiment. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was like, he was on the list, but he wasn't like ever seriously considered. Alandis Brassel likes the MJ. Chris Law does not like the MJ. Lefty, what do you think? Do you like the MJ call?
I like it from a standpoint of it is back to the true blue blood of sports card investing. Everything really started and rose. I mean, if you look at a couple of athletes, if you look over how sports cards got to where they are right now, the hobby and the investing opportunity that we're all currently enjoying, Jordan is a massive, massive part of how it got here. You think about Mantle, you think about Griffey, you think about Jordan, 86 Fleer. Like you think about certain athletes as being like basically the Mount Rushmore of how we got to where we are now in sports card investing. And Michael Jordan has to be on that Mount Rushmore of guys that made the hobby where it is now. And you're still seeing a ton of dollars going into a guy who is still like branding himself fairly well. I mean, I would argue that I don't like MJ's branding right now. I think he needs a new PR team. I think he's feasting on his old PR and he needs something fresh. But I do think that MJ is one of the top athletes that we've ever seen. And I think that that's going to be fun to not only study. So now you've got a college quarterback, you've got a current GOAT in Wembanyama, Shohei, and Caitlin Clark. You've got all three of those kind of filling the same profile. And then you've got a retired GOAT actively living in MJ. So you've got kind of these three different pockets. And I'm curious to see what your breakdown of funds will be, how you decide to, if you're 2020, whatever, are you just going to kind of invest in them marginally and see how it all plays out? And I know that asterisk, and do you mind if I go there real quick?
Let's just quickly answer Andrew's question. He says, have you determined what your sell markers will be for the Jordan cards? No, I need to give myself some homework and some fun throughout the year. So what I anticipate though, is that the Jordan plays will probably be either very, very strategically planned out crack and resubmits based on like how does a Beckett subgrade situation transfer over to a PSA situation? Or if I can get if I go PSA without like a crack situation, if I go PSA graded Jordan card, finding the times in the market where a particular grade of a Jordan card typically is lower than it is at other times in the year. And then because it's Jordan, just buy it now. Like I don't anticipate auctioning off any Michael Jordan cards. You know what I mean? Like Michael Jordan cards are going to be buy it now, best offer situations where it's a buy low, sell high, simple buy low, sell high, but it needs to be based on eye appeal It needs to be based on it needs to be really based on me learning. It's going to be the heaviest lift for me. I really don't know that much about the Michael Jordan market. So I really picked this one because I know there's a market there. I know I can make money on Michael Jordan, but I got a lot of learning to do. So I look forward to reporting back my learning.
Yeah, this will be fun. I think it'll be fun. I think I'm most excited about Shohei, as I talked to you earlier, about watching you learn that. But I think this one will be fun too, because it'll cause you to really dig deep into some of the old Paul stuff that you maybe have like trauma towards, of like some of the stuff that we did early on that didn't work out because we were also trying to sell cards in a massive bubble pop. Like that 2021 Paul had some really good strategic Jordan ideas. They just didn't play out because the entire market was falling apart. And I think
that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
I think now if we were to maybe just, given time heals all wounds, and I think maybe this would, maybe this is going to be a thing that we just don't expect. Of the 5, who do you expect to have or to make the most ROI on?
Good question. I didn't even think about that. You would think that I would have thought about that. I think that the most ROI would probably, it should come from, I think it should come from Arch Manning.
Yeah, that's what I would guess.
Because I think he's going to be the one that's going to take the most obvious leap into the spotlight.
Yeah. I think his sell marker is the most glorious.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we have the sell markers for the other 4 are not as obvious to be like, this is when it's going to happen. Like, if Michael Jordan dies in 2025, then that's going to be crazy for you. But
that's true.
But I don't expect that.
Is he going to die, Lefty? Is this
no.
Right now?
I don't want to do that. But I'm just saying that's the next really obvious selling marker for him, unless he is fully to get out of basketball and change his branding up a little bit. So
Chris Law thinks he's going to run for governor. I don't know. I didn't know that. That could
I would not vote for that.
That could be a
the man's not good at running anything and business.
I don't think he can lead anything except for a basketball team that he's actually playing on. So
he's a gambling addict as well. I'm not willing to have him be our governor.
I don't even like Michael Jordan as a human being. Like I really don't. Like this is strictly like
probably
I've seen his card market is the strongest out of any athlete of all time. I mean, I guess I understand why, but I think there's other athletes that maybe should be rivaling him. It is what it is, and we can't change the market. And I think all the points you made are great. Like it does feel like the right time to have a narrow portfolio that I go super deep into, and to have a Michael Jordan in as 20% of that portfolio. So
I think it's smart. Because when we talk about tradition, I mean, every once in a while, I go back to my traditional investing background, and you've got to have a part of your asset class that does have some sort of safe floor. Like with Arch, you're kind of risking a handle a little bit, not that we don't feel like he's that risky of an asset, but when you step back from it, it's like, okay, well, maybe he is a risky asset. Like we haven't really seen what he's doing on the field. We know what his market is. We know what his PR is. We don't know what his play is really. And we know exactly who the other 4 athletes are. So, but I think you've got a very high floor Jordan.
Yep. Going to be hard to make money on him, but I think that if I'm able to pull off some of the crack and submit stuff, or just some really smart Jordan purchases and time the market, he could be the one that I have the most net profit from if I do that well, because everybody wants him and wants to spend so much money on his cards.
He's probably the easiest guy to study too, because there's so many years of tendencies that you can go back through. I mean, the
Chris Law,
selling markers
I'm
can
going to
be simply
dispute
just
Chris Law's comment here. He says Jordan limits your risk of loss, but requires work to make money. Paul doesn't like work. I would say that's got to be a joke from Chris, because that's the reason. That's literally the reason I'm picking Jordan, because I agree with Chris, except for the fact that I do love I like work more than anything else. I like to research and work. I don't want to just haphazardly buy stuff on eBay. Chris says it is a joke. Thanks. Appreciate that. All right. Thanks for getting me riled up there, brother. Lefty, you know the asterisk. You know the asterisk. So let's reset it for the audience. I said throughout the show, there's an asterisk on Shedeur Sanders and Cooper Flag. Lefty says he knows the asterisk. I think actually the answer to what I'm going to make the most money on in 2025 is this asterisk that Lefty, we have not talked about this. I promise you, we did not talk before the show. Lefty didn't look at the show notes. I didn't even leave anything in the Lefty knew the same amount of information that all of you knew. That's it. He nailed the first four, and then he got Jordan after like a couple clues. So not even really a couple clues, just one clue. So now he thinks he nailed the asterisk. I think he did too. I can't go a year without doing this. Lefty, explain.
Well, I'm not exactly sure how you've worded it, but it has to be something around the once a year sell marker of an NFL or NBA draft. Both of these guys are going to be drafted in their card markets. We've always made great money around that, and they'll probably both be around 1-1. And so you can't overlook the fact that you're going to have a massive opportunity to make good money on two players that are not investable for the entire year, but have a absolute mountain in a draft scenario. And so I don't know exactly how you've worded it, but I know it's probably around something with either of them being drafted in the not the WNBA. If Cooper Flag gets drafted in the WNBA, that's a move. But it would be the NBA draft and the NFL draft, which also, barring how we've talked about Paige Beckers already, you could have put her in that conversation with an asterisk as well. Yep, it is. It does have to do with the NBA draft and the NFL draft, and I'm gonna clarify. It is even more specific than that of a play. It is literally Cooper Flag and Shedeur Sanders tops now draft nights. The draft night cards.
We know they're each going to have a draft night card.
We have made millions on
We've
those
made
cards.
So much money on those cards. We made it. We cashed in with 2 different Wemby cards, Caitlin Clark. I mean, and then just observing a lot of the plays like like people who bought the Jaden Daniels cards. Like, I mean, it is printing money to buy Cooper Flag and Shedeur Sanders.
Even Angel Reese
now.
Hers did well too. We weren't in that, but it did well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, really, for me to go a whole year and not allow myself to participate in Tops Now or Panini Instant plays would be foolish, because that's honestly how I've made the most money in the last couple of years. When I really, really examine things, like you and I have figured out a way to nail the Panini Instant and the Tops Now. And I'm saying Tops Now, Shedeur Sanders and Cooper Flag plays for a couple different reasons. I want the audience to understand what not to buy. Like, I get so many questions all the time, whether it's from one-on-one members, whether it's from premium members, whether it's from Sports Card Strategy Show listeners. Paul, should I do this Tops Now play? Should I do this Panini Instant play? And I find myself saying no probably 90% of the time. Like, I literally talk about the ones that I think you guys should buy, and then pretty much don't believe in any of the other ones. Like, and I don't want to get caught up in spending thousands of dollars on Tops Now and Panini Instant plays in 2025. I want to buy Cooper Flag and Shedeur Sanders draft and post-draft rookie related Tops Now plays, maybe Panini Instant plays, probably just Tops Now. I just think the raw degrade of those two guys, there's going to be some insane money there based on historical data, but also based on who these two guys are. Cooper Flag, I will probably spend more money on than Shedeur Sanders. We'll see when we get there. But I mean, if Shedeur goes to the Cowboys, if Dion and Shedeur go to the Cowboys, if Shadeur's a top 5 pick, then maybe my budget on Shedeur will rival my budget on Cooper's. But I didn't want to do this like, oh, well, give yourself $1,000 for the year on whatever. No, it's got to be very, very specific. Like Cooper Flag, Shedeur Sanders. Now, Paul, what if they both get injured and they're not drafted high and there isn't a market for those two guys? Fine. That's more money I'm spending on the other 5 players. Like I don't need to give myself anything other than this. Like this is it. There's 7 players. There's 5 main players, and then there's 2 asterisks, and the 2 asterisks are only for Tops Now, mainly Panini Instant. I think we could have a whole after show episode on why Paolo Banchero didn't make the list. So maybe there's
a couple of these guys that I think could have moved very easily into this list. I mean, I picked one as one of my 5, and there were several guys that I had on my list that you didn't have even on your, like, there's no way I was touching Mahomes, there's just no way because of the anyway. So
ultimately I weeded him out because I just think, how do you even make money on Patrick Mahomes? Like, how do you even do that? So that's why I weeded him out, right?
Let me give you, let me just make sure this is as clear as possible.
Okay.
Let's say Cooper Flag continues to have more last 2 plays of last night's game. Let's say he's more that Cooper Flag than he is the first hour and a half of that game.
Yeah.
Who overall dominated. Like for a 17-year-old, the guy looked like he was better than everyone else out there. He's definitely, in my opinion, right now 1-1, and it's not even close. But let's say that he looks more like, the last 2 plays, and he ends up falling in the draft, whether that's through injury or something else. And Arias Ace Bailey ends up being the number 1, the guy from Rutgers, who his comp is apparently Tracy McGrady and Josh Smith on what I'm looking at. By the way, I think it's funny that Cooper Flag's comp is Andre Kirilenko and Scottie Pippen. I would not put those guys together.
Andre Kirilenko and Scottie Pippen. Okay.
They put
obviously like a very, very X and O basketball, like not X's and O's, but like a very analytical and X and O's like basketball mind put that comp together.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. But AK-47 was that guy was a mood on the court, but I don't know if they just think that because he's gonna go to the Jazz potentially. Anyway, but let's say Arias Ace Bailey goes number 1. You for sure are not doing the draft night for Ace Bailey.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
We'll see when draft night rolls around, but on November 13th,
we'll see how hyped Ace Bailey is or somebody else in March Madness.
Yeah, no, I mean, but the answer is yes. The answer is no, because the only reason that I'm even throwing an asterisk out for Cooper Flag is because of who Cooper Flag is.
Yeah.
This wasn't.
Okay, that's where I really wanted you to get to.
Yeah, this isn't an asterisk of like whoever the top guy for the NFL and whoever the top guy for the NBA are. I'm going to do those plays. Nope. This is Shedeur Sanders, Cooper Flag. That's it. Yep.
Because and to pull this out even further, we did this with Wemby. We did not do this with Sarr. Like,
correct.
No one cares about Sarr.
That's the example. I'm so glad you said that, because that's exactly what I was in the front of my mind when you were asking me the question about Ace Bailey. It's like, that's Sarr and Risa Shea and not Wemby. Like, that's just not, that's a Flag is Wemby. Flag is Wemby.
Flag is a flag plant that we already made.
Flag,
like before he was even he was a high school hooper, and we were like, this guy is Arch Manning.
Yeah,
this
we
guy
were
is
talking about
Shedeur
him.
Sanders. This guy is Wembanyama. This guy is whoever else we've named way before they were ready. We knew he was coming. We knew there was a flag plant coming, and I'm glad there's an asterisk because we're going to make a lot of money on it.
Lefty, 2025 is going to be a lot of arch madness and a lot of flag plant.
Come on.
Let's go, everybody. All right, so what we're going to do is probably tease you to the premium pod for premium members to find out like why Paolo Banchero didn't make the list, why Anthony Edwards didn't make the list, why Jordan over LeBron, all that good stuff. I'll talk about it on the premium pod this week with Lefty. Everybody, this has been fun. Thank you for indulging me on my 5 players in 2025. I'm very excited to do it. And yes, Derek Hagan, we will also answer the question, why not Jaden Daniels? That's a good question. So stay tuned for the premium pod at nooffseason.com this Friday. Get a free 30-day trial at nooffseason.com if you are not already a member so that you can get that show. Everybody, we'll see you soon. Love the Manly Stanley stickerized. We're out. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. If you enjoyed the content on today's show, there's plenty more waiting for you at nooffseason.com. Just go to nooffseason.com right now and get a free 30-day trial. You get our formula-based sports card rankings, sports card school, inventory tracker, the ability to grade with us, and the premium podcast where we answer an unlimited amount of your questions. Check it out right now at nooffseason.com. For everyone at nooffseason.com, I'm Paul Hickey. Thanks again for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day.